Good morning, my friends. Welcome to our New Testament challenge. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some thoughts and reflections from the first chapter of the book of 2 Corinthians, Paul's second letter to the church at Corinth. So there's actually hints of an additional letter, third letter to Paul, from Paul to Corinth, but we only have the two, so we'll go with what we have. Apparently, Corinth, as we've mentioned before, it's kind of like a basket full of puppies. They're cute, lots of fun, just full of energy, but also can be difficult to handle. They're often off in different directions, and it's time to potty train them. and Paul has to be a little harsh at times to make sure they mind and they're going in the right direction and they're be trained the way that they should go. And so he references toward the end of chapter 1 a painful visit. Whether it was the first visit he made or whatever, but there's talk about he came and really chastised the Corinthians, and we see some of that in the letter in 1 Corinthians. There's some chastisement that's going on, and so he, as much as Paul does, he apologizes for that. He says, "I don't want to cause you pain. I don't want to have another painful visit. I do all this because I love you. It's kind of like the parent. This hurts me more than it hurts you. I discipline you. I spank you. I punish you because I love you. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense as a child, but as we grow older, we understand why it was necessary. And so, hopefully, as the Corinthian church and as us as Christians, as we grow in the faith, as we mature in the faith, we begin to understand truly the discipline and the reason why behind discipline in our walk, our spiritual walk, our Christian walk. So it's necessary. The discipline is necessary. And even though we may not like it, it does have a positive impact on us eventually. At the beginning of the first chapter here in 2 Corinthians, Paul talks about some of the afflictions that they're dealing with, other places. And we know from Acts and from Paul's references throughout his letters that he was shipwrecked, he's been beaten, he's been given thrashing, he's been getting striped, whipped. He's done all this stuff. He's been through all of that. And so he's been in prison several times. And so we hear this a little bit. He says, the reason we didn't come to you is because, we were being afflicted. But even in the middle of his affliction, he wants to glorify God. And he spends the time, he says, we were worried, we were afraid for our lives, but in the midst of that, we still glorify God. And we give thanks to God for you, the church, for what you have done. I love that. I love that. It is, I think, a wonderful word for the church in this day and age. The leadership, we've gone through a lot. We've been tried and afflicted. Been wondering, are we going to make it through this? The church, many of us have wondered, will the church make it through this? Are we ever going to get back together? Is everybody going to come back together? And many, we're still separate. There's just difficulty in maintaining contact, maintaining communication, difficulty in teaching and striving to put our faith into action when we're confined to our homes and confined to our little bubbles. How do we live out our faith in times like these. And so there's concern here, and I think we understand what Paul's going through. What he's talking about here is difficult. It's difficult, but in the midst of the difficulty, God still brings something good out of this. God is still glorified. He still teaches us and leads us. Paul says, in the midst of all this, I can still praise God for you, for your faith. To all those who are listening to this, I praise God for your faith, that we're taking this time to go through the New Testament and answering some questions, but also asking a lot more. But I praise God that you're able to do this, and you're able to listen and do whatever you can. Even, I get this. You've seen me. I'm recording this a day late. There are times when we don't do it every day. Things are difficult. That's okay. But, keep moving forward. Keep trying. Keep plugging along. And know that God is being glorified in the midst of all this. And He will respond. He will reward your efforts for your faithfulness and the righteousness in which you live and the holiness that you try to live under. This is good stuff, my friends. It is a wonderful and a helpful word for us in today's times. Take care, and we'll talk to you again.